So the first thing I wanted to do is to show you how to build a water ripple. If you're a compositor, a lot of times when you're doing composites, you like have a bird or something standing in water, and you might want to put those little water rings around their feet. And so a lot of times you just go out to, Adobe Stock or somewhere, and you go to find those water ripples to add it in. But it's nice that you can go ahead and have your own. And so I'm going to show you how to go ahead and build them. The first one I have up here is a technique that you can build one with a gradient. And that's one technique. I'm not going to show you how to build that one tonight. I'm going to show you one that I like a little bit better, and the one that I use all the time, because this particular one, if you build this particular one, what you end up with is a artifact that you actually can add to your library. And as you can see, it's kind of like having a PNG file or an element that you can then move from one file to another, and you can transform it and you can colorize it, because you actually end up with a black and white image like this. And then you can move it around and you can add it to different images whenever you need it. So that's what we're going to build tonight. When we get done, we're going to have something that looks very much like this. And so this is what we're going to build. So in order to build this, we're going to start out with just a blank canvas, and we're going to put a blank layer up. And on that canvas, we're going to go up here to the filter called render, and we're going to render some clouds. And you can see here on render clouds, well, let me back up here and let me get back to black and white, because I do want my clouds to be black and white. So let's re-render them so that they're black. I had green in my foreground color here. So now we have black clouds. So you're going to render clouds, and then we're going to do Control L, and we're going to put a little bit more contrast into this thing so that it's good and contrasty. We're just going to pull our black and white points in a little bit and make this thing pretty contrasty. And once we've done that, we're going to make it a smart object. So we're going to come down here to the layer, and we're going to click anywhere to the right of the title, and we're going to go convert to smart object. And so I'm right here on layer 2. I'm going to close this one up so you're not looking at all those steps. So we're right here on layer 2. We've made rendered clouds. We've made it a smart object. So now we're going to apply a bunch of different filters to this thing to build it. The first filter that we're going to do is we're going to go into the filter tab, and we're going to go down here to the blur gallery, and we're going to go to the radio blur. And we're going to go to the radio blur, and we're going to spin. We're going to go to the spin setting, and we're going to make it to 100. So the amount when it pops up is probably going to be at 10. We're going to pull this thing all the way up to 100. And we're going to have it on spin, and then you can have it on good or best. Either one's fine. And then we're going to click OK. And you'll see that you're going to get something that looks like this. The next thing we're going to do is go back into the filter again, and we're going to go to the Gaussian blur, and we're going to add just a couple of pixels of blur. So 2 pixels of Gaussian blur to it. And then we're going to jump over to the filter gallery this time, but we're going to go not into the blur gallery, but we're going to go into filter gallery, and we're going to go down here to the sketches. Now let me throw these away so we are starting from scratch. The first one that we want to go to under sketch is Chrome. It's the second one, the first one on the second row, called Chrome. And in Chrome, we're going to set our settings to detail down about 1 and our smoothness up around 7 or 8. I'll set it on 8. And then we're going to come down here to the plus sign, because we're going to add another filter in. And this time we're going to, it didn't add me one in. And we're going to go to the I'm frozen up. Oh, there we go. I got a whole bunch of them. Okay, let's get rid of that one. Get rid of that one. Okay, this time we're going to go up here to the bas relief for our second one. And on that one, our settings, we're going to take the detail setting and we're going to make it around 7. And we're going to put the smoothness on this one around 5. And we lost our Chrome. Let me go back here to Chrome quick. I lost my Chrome. There we are. And our bas relief is on about 7 and 5, and our lighting coming down from the top. So this is what we have so far. Okay. And then we're going to come back. We're going to say, okay, and we're going to get out of the filter gallery. I don't know why this is running so slow. I guess it's because we're in the middle of the Zoom. There we go. Now we're going to come back over here to filter again, and we're going to come down to distort, and we're going to go to zigzag all the way to the bottom. And we're going to go to make sure we're on pond ripples. There's a couple of options, but we're going to go to the pond ripples. We're going to set our pond ripples to 50, around 50. And we're going to put the ridges at about 10 to 12, 15, somewhere around in there. And we're going to select OK. Then we're going to come back up here to filter again, and we're going to go to distort. And then we're going to go pinch. And we're going to set our pinch at about 50. And the reason we do this is because if you know a water ripple, they're always narrower at the front, and then as it moves, as the ripple goes out, they get wider and bigger as the ripple moves out from whatever made the center, right? So we had to pinch it into the center and let the ripple come out to the outside. Now, the other thing that happens on a water ripple is it gets softer and blurrier as it moves out. So the last filter that we're going to put on here is we're going to go back here to the blur gallery, and we're going to select the iris blur. And the iris blur, when you first come into the iris blur, you're going to see 2 sets of dots, if you will. I'm going to blur this really down so you can see what happens. What this means is from the center of the dot to the first set of dots is clear. From this set of dots to this outside of dot is gradually blurred based on how many pixels of blur that I set. And then from this dot to the very outside of your canvas is blurred for the full amount of blur pixels that I'm going to set as my amount of blurring. So I'm going to bring this back. I only want to blur maybe 15, 20 pixels. I do want to bring my blur out a little bit. I mean, my edges out a little bit. So I'm going to bring this out some, so I can grab this and bring it out, and then I can bring this out a little bit. So I have a little more of the center, and then I can set my blur at, say, 12 or 14 pixels. And then I select OK, and voila, you now have your final artifact. I'm going to close up all of my commands that I did, and this is your final water feature. And how you would use this water feature now, you make a copy of that, and I have one right above it, so I'm going to turn the one we just built off. And what you would do with that when you put that into your design is you would then go into the transform mode. Excuse me, wait a minute. you'd have to rasterize it, make it get it out of the smart object by going down here to rasterize the layer. Now it's just a flattened element. That's why you need to make a copy of it, because you want to keep your original in case you wanted to go in and change your blurs again or whatever. So you rasterize that copy. Now you can go into the transform mode and you can change the perspective on it. So you go in here to transform in perspective, and you can pull this out and set this thing down like you were putting it in water. So if we wanted to shape this thing a little bit like it was in water and lay it down on a pond or something, you can now use this element and put it in anywhere you wanted to put the element. If once you put it in, you can then, depending on how you were, what color water or whatever, or the diagram, that the composite that you're making, you can then put a hue and saturation over it. And then you can check on your hue and saturation. You can check the box colorize. Let me bring my properties out here. So I'm checking right down here. Right here, I'm checking right here. My little thing Steve gave me is not working. He gave me a little trick, but doesn't seem to want to work for me tonight. I'm right here. I'll just circle this. There's a little box called colorize. And once I click that, I can then, if my water is kind of oceany cyan colors, I can switch it here, or I can make it dark blues or whatever I want based on my composite. So that's how you would use that artifact in one of your composites. So now you have, to add to your library, a nice water element.